From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, fine people. It's good to have you here. My name is Sven Erlandson. I am the host of the Badass Counseling Show. And you are at our show, and boy, are we happy to have you here. And we are sorting things out, answering questions, diving deep, counseling for people so willing to open up and dive in with us. Wherever you are checking in from, being in South Africa or Canada or South Dakota or Japan or New South Wales or even South London, it's terrific to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I am joined in studio by Rob the Rocket. Rob?
Yo, yes, sir.
What's the good word today, sir?
I got a pillow for the studio. I thought you might like to see it. Here you go. That's a studio
What is the
pillow.
pillow?
The pillow is feelings.
Oh, we've got a feelings wheel on the pillow.
You can choose whatever feel. You often, search for a bunch of different feeling words, and now you can just sort of look at the pillow.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Now I have a visual, and I can say, no, give me a feeling word. Good is not a feeling word.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah, so you
All right.
read some off there.
I love this so much. So now we have a studio cat and a studio feelings wheel pillow. And KC, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, but I don't think this pillow is going to stay in the studio.
I think someone has their eyes on that one. Okay. Rob, we have two very interesting stories again. It's like when you guys pick these stories, wow. Tell us about, we're going to take them separately. We're going to get to Cory in a bit, but we're opening with Amirah. Please tell us about Amirah, Rob.
I am happy to, Sven. Amirah wrote into us, and she said, hello, wonderful people at Badass Counseling. I think that's why we picked her. I listen to this podcast almost every day at work. That's the other reason. And I'm currently reading There's a Hole in My Love Cup, the third reason. All right. Sven is the only person I found whose self-help advice has actually helped, but I've gotten to a boulder I just can't seem to pass. I can't forgive my child self. In fact, I feel as though I extremely dislike, if not hate her. As I've grown, I've realized more and more what a little snot I was, and I can't seem to justify or forgive her behavior no matter how much I learn about the whys. I know this is a huge blockage to my overall healing journey, but I just can't seem to get past it. Any help at all would be a treasure to me if you can find the time.
We have found the time, Amirah, and we are grateful that you have given us your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
No, thank you.
Pleasure is ours. Well, let's dive right in. So basically, I can't forgive my past self. Extreme dislike, if not hate. I was a little snot, can't justify or forgive her behavior. All very powerful words. And so let's just run with this idea of hate. You put it out there. You brought it up. I didn't. And so let me ask you, if you were to be totally honest, right now, what % do you hate yourself?
See, I knew you would ask me that, so I wrote it down
You're
somewhere.
so smart. Oh, you're gaming the system, are you? All right,
I think
smarty pants. I can tell you were a little snot as a kid. It clearly didn't go away. I'm teasing. Go ahead.
I think it was 70% hate on a good day and like 85% hate on a bad day.
But what is it today? What is it lately?
Like right now?
Not necessarily right this second, but lately, this month or this year or the last 4 years, this period of life that you're in.
Probably the 70%.
70%?
Yeah.
Okay. And what age were you when your self-hatred was at its peak?
Ooh, I'd say probably now.
Now.
Because now is when I've made the most self-realizations.
Okay. And so the more, if I'm hearing you correctly, then the more self-realizations I have, the more I hate myself.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the earliest you can recall in your entire life of feeling hatred towards yourself?
Ooh, I'm not quite sure.
Take a shot at it. You can change your mind in 2 minutes, change your mind tomorrow, you can change your mind in 2 weeks.
I think I started the self-hatred talk maybe in middle school.
So like, should we just spitball and say like 13?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll say 13.
That's at least when I remember noticing the more self-deprecating jokes and statements.
Okay.
And from me.
Okay. And so 13 years old. And at that time, what % hate do you think you were feeling at that time?
It's a really good question. It wasn't as much as it is now because...
Right? Because you said now it's most that it's
Yeah.
ever been. But if you just spitball it, you can change your mind later if you want.
Maybe 30%.
All right, let's go with 30%. Fair enough. Appreciate you answering that. Just out of curiosity, in your belief system about life and about just what you know about people and so on and so forth, which, by the way, how old are you? Just out of curiosity.
20.
You're 20. Fair. All right. Thank you. All right. So as you understand life, or from what you know based on experience or what have you, what percentage of children that come out of the womb are bad?
None of them.
None of them. Oh, okay. And what percentage of children that come out of the womb hate themselves?
None of them.
None of them. Okay. So then somewhere between the womb and 13 years old, somewhere you were taught to hate yourself. Accurate or inaccurate?
It was since I came out of the womb, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it started right away. But you concede that was not, in fact, your natural state.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then since I came out of the womb, I've been taught to hate myself. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah.
And again, forgive me for asking the terribly obvious question, but who taught you to hate yourself?
Most of the power figures in my life.
Who are we
Who
are we really talking about?
I'm going to be honest, well, not really my mom. That was more recently. It was kind of like my whole family.
Did you just drop the volume of your voice?
Probably, yeah.
Am I to assume then that mom or the power figures in your life are nearby?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you being a bad girl right now? Okay. Whole family. You said your whole family taught you to hate yourself as a child. And so you said mom has only been recently.
She wasn't doing it intentionally, but it was a lot of like pressure because she wanted to see her kids succeed. And the pressure just came off really dragging. And I always felt like I just wasn't good enough because I wasn't making where I was supposed to be in life at 20.
I see. And you say that stuff, the pressure and that you not being good enough, getting that from mom, that's new? Or mom has always had those pressures on you?
I think it's always been that way, but I really started noticing it when I had to start getting into like the job field.
Now the pressure. Okay. But you think it's always been that way. And you said your whole family taught you to hate yourself. So you've mentioned mom. Who else are we talking about then?
Like grandparents, the great uncles and aunts. And
okay.
I've always been kind of the black sheep of the family. Like everyone else could mess up and it was fine. But if I messed up, God forbid.
And why do you think you're different in that regard? Why were the standards different for you?
Custody case.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
There was a whole big custody case that I was never made aware of, and because of that, I had to be more perfect because each side was trying to kind of see who raised me better.
Okay. And so you felt the pressure to do what?
Just
to be better so that somebody would get you instead of the other person, or what?
It was more just ingrained in me from like every side that I had to be perfect. And I wasn't sure why I had to be perfect. I just knew that I had to be.
And now in retrospect, you know you had to be perfect because of this custody case and so forth. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry if my wording's not great.
No,
my
you're great. No. Dude, yeah, it's totally understandable. Amirah, being on a show and you haven't been on this show before and talking about personal stuff, it's totally understandable. You having anxiety, I totally understand. Rob gets anxiety every time before I come into the studio because I never shower and I always smell so bad, and he's so sweet. But so I get your anxiety. All right, but I always had to be perfect, and yet you go on to say, but I've always been the black sheep.
Yeah.
So Is it safe to say that the reason you became the black sheep is because you didn't want to be perfect and fuck you, I don't want to be perfect?
No, it was because there was more expectation on me than everyone else, and that side of the family didn't really like my mom anyway. She was the black sheep before me.
But a black sheep is sort of someone that acts out or is considered the bad person. So you were simultaneously expected to be perfect and you were the bad person?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so then we're back on...
I did question a few things that they tried to teach, and they didn't quite like that either.
Oh, okay. And fair enough. And so the questioning, don't question. And just so I'm clear, mom won the custody case?
No.
Dad won?
No.
Grandparents won?
Yes.
Ah, they won. Wait, it was grandparents fighting for custody from their daughter or from their daughter-in-law?
My maternal grandmother or grandfather. I'm sorry.
So your maternal grandfather won custody from his daughter.
Yes.
And what was the reason they didn't want her to have custody of you? Because what? Because your mom what? Because what?
That part's still really unclear. I have no idea. I've heard so many different stories.
Okay. Okay.
All I know is that I was put into my grandpa's care while they were trying to sort out whatever it was. Okay. And then...
So who taught you to hate yourself? Who really are we talking about here?
I have to name a specific person.
Clearly you don't want to, or is it that you don't have the ability to?
Like, I don't really have the ability to.
Okay, but you claim you were taught to hate yourself, and I believe you. And you said with mom, it's only been recently, particularly with regard to the job stuff, but maybe it's always, the pressure has always been there. But you talk about self-hate. You said this giant block is I can't seem to get past. I can't forgive my child self. I feel extreme dislike, if not hate for her. I realized more and more what a little snot I was. I can't justify or forgive her behavior. Who taught you to hate yourself at the youngest age? When you were younger? Who are we talking about here?
I guess it would have to be my grandpa.
Grandpa.
But I don't think he did it on purpose.
What was the single biggest way that the message was conveyed that caused you to hate yourself? How was the message conveyed?
I just never seemed to be able to do anything right. And I grew up in a family that has the mindset of like, your mistakes define you. Your mistakes will be used against you no matter how many years down the road it is.
Well, let me ask you, clearly they're proving that your mistakes will be used against you because he made sure you knew that you weren't doing anything right. So he was living proof.
Not just him, like my entire family is like that.
Your entire family.
Extended, direct.
Okay.
They're all like that.
Safe to say, I don't hear that your father is in the picture of your life?
He was, but he wasn't.
Okay. You've mentioned that mom, at least recently, but maybe always with the pressure, mom has taught you to hate yourself. Grandpa has taught you to hate yourself. Potentially great uncles and aunts have taught you to hate yourself. Just out of curiosity, what percent do you hate your mom?
Like 10.
10%, okay. And mom,
like
10%.
She's a really good mom. Her methods to help us succeed just weren't the best.
Okay. And what percent do you hate your grandpa?
It used to be a lot, but not so much anymore.
What was it at its max?
90, probably.
And how old were you when that was the case?
The rebellious high school years, so like 15, 16.
And what percent do you hate your grandfather today?
15, maybe?
15%. Okay. So just...
Because I understand him more. And why he does the things he does, and he's actually tried to get better and do things better, verbally and in actions.
Okay.
But I still can't forgive that I was messed up from such a young age.
Wait, I can't forgive that I was messed up from such a young age. What do you mean by that sentence? I can't forgive myself for acting the way I acted, or I can't forgive that people messed me up. What are you saying?
That people messed me up.
Well, this is interesting because in your paragraph that you sent to us, you said all this hatred you have for yourself. You don't ever mention hating someone else. I had to ask you, how much do you hate your mom? 10%. How much do you hate your grandpa? Well, today, 15%. But you state specifically, the most I've ever hated myself is now, and I hate myself 70%. And I started hating myself when I was 13, and I hated myself 30%. In other words, it's quite easy for you to hate yourself, but more difficult for you to hate the people who literally taught you to hate yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I just, after doing research and growing as a person myself, I can kind of understand where they come from more. So I can kind of...
And where do they come from? Sum it up for me. Where do they come from?
Doing their best with the methods that they had, but the methods weren't always great. And then, of course, knowing that they grew up in the same kind of environment that I did.
Doing their best.
Because, you know,
doing their best in raising you, presumably. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, one brother.
One brother. Older or younger?
Younger.
And he was treated the exact same way you were treated?
No, because he actually got to be raised by my mom.
Okay. And so he was treated differently than you were treated?
Yes.
Okay, by your mom. Is he treated differently by your grandfather and aunts and uncles?
Yeah.
Oh, he's treated differently by everyone.
Sort of, but not really. Like, he still has that same pressures, but because we were raised by two different people, it's kind of...
But you were both raised by the same extended family, that whole family that you talk about.
No, he was actually kept away from the side of the family that I was most integrated into, because my mom knew how toxic they were.
Her own family was. Okay. And so you say, the more self-realizations I have, the more I hate myself. You said... I
have a little snot story about how different me and my brother were treated. Actually,
go ahead. I'd love to hear it.
It's a very vivid memory. When I was staying at my mom's, I hadn't really been at her house or staying over at her house until that time.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't have that close relationship with her that I developed.
Uh-huh.
And she had a candy dish, and it had one of those fancy little tops on it.
Uh-huh.
And I accidentally broke it, just the top off of it, not the whole dish.
Mm-hmm.
And the blame went to my brother. We were both children, tiny kids.
How old do you think you were, approximately?
I couldn't have been older than 10.
Okay. Go ahead. Finish your story.
And my brother's 3 years younger than me, if that helps.
So he's 7.
And yeah. So I knew that I was taught that if I make mistakes like that, I get hit. I get the belt.
Mm-hmm.
But... Hold on, my anxiety is taking my voice away from me.
That's all right. Take your time. It's okay, Amirah. You are doing so great, and I'm proud of you. Just take your time. There's no rush. Are you crying right now?
Yeah.
And talk to me about those tears. What are you feeling right now? It's okay to cry. The tears are good. What are you feeling?
A lot of anxiety. I'm not used to really strong emotions. I usually just shove them down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's okay. Let it out, sweetheart. It's okay.
I usually just try not to think about it too hard.
I'm glad you're letting yourself think about it. I'm glad you're letting those feelings out. It's okay, honey. It's okay. Let it out.
But anyway, so my brother was getting the blame, and even then I knew that I should fess up. But I was always taught that whether it's spilling milk or breaking a glass or doing something wrong, if I got caught, I would get a belt. And I knew my brother, the worst that would happen to him is he gets maybe a 15-minute timeout. So looking back, I know it was wrong. I know I should take the blame for my actions. But the way I saw it, I was like, well, I know that he'll still be left no matter what. His punishment won't be as severe as what I get. But I didn't know my mom real well at that time, so I was like, what will she think of me? What will happen to me if she finds out I did it?
You were afraid, weren't you?
Yeah.
And do you know what little kids do when they're afraid? They lie. They do. And especially if a little child is used to getting a belt, I got to be honest with you, I think about that 10-year-old little girl, and I'm so glad she did lie. You had every right to protect yourself. If you're getting the belt from adults who clearly can't control their own anger, who truly feel it's necessary to not just hit a child, but whip a child with a belt? Really? Yeah, I'm glad you lied. And
I need to make it clear that my mom never laid hands on her
I
kids.
believe you. I believe you. That doesn't matter. You were conditioned to believe that any sort of screw up or a lie or whatever led to the belt. It doesn't matter. You as a child, you didn't know that, and you even said, what's my mom going to think of me if she finds out I broke it? You just wanted your mother's love.
I didn't even think about the consequences it would have on my brother. I should have known what it's like to be blamed for something you didn't do.
A 10-year-old, to say a 10-year-old should have known, to say a 10-year-old who's used to getting the belt, to say a 10-year-old is a bad child, come on. I understand you have been so conditioned to judge yourself and to see yourself as bad and a disappointment and a black sheep, and you've been conditioned to hate yourself and to be put down, and all these people with all this fucking pressure on you, kid. It's not fair. It was never fair. You said, basically, from the moment I came out of the womb, I've been taught to hate myself. I tell you what, so when you write to me, I can't forgive my child self, that hurts my heart. Because the kid was just doing her best. You were just trying to survive. You just wanted love. Just wanted your mommy. I'm sure somewhere in you, maybe even you wanted your daddy, just wanted to be safe. And you were in that hell. And all the pressure. And the thing is, let me ask you this. If I brought a little girl onto this show, and let's say she's 10, and she was on with her father, and her father's sitting next, but letting her talk. And if you were listening to the show, you say you listen to my show every day, and let's say you're driving in your car, or riding your bike, or just hanging out, and you're listening, and you're hearing me talking to this little girl. And the little girl is saying, I'm so stupid and I hate myself and I keep screwing up and I'm no good and stuff. How would you feel towards that little girl? Let's say that little girl's name is Patty. How would you feel towards Patty?
I wouldn't hate her or anything.
Would you think she's a bad girl?
No.
Why not?
Because kids do kid stuff.
Kids do kid stuff. That's right. Kids do kid stuff. That's right. And the truth is, you're treating Patty differently than you would treat yourself. When Patty's going through it, her daddy's right here, and Patty's going through it, and you feel bad for her. And that's the mentality. You got to begin to look at yourself, kiddo. You were a child. And anybody taking a belt to a child, yeah, I got a fucking issue with that. A belt? Really? Really? You can't teach a child any better fucking way than that? Here's the thing, kid. It's 2023. That means you were born in 2003. Okay? The notion that people don't know how to raise their children better when you're 2003, 2008, 2010, the notion that in the U.S. people don't know how to raise children better.
That's the South for you.
Bullshit.
It's still rampant around here. If you try to tell,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've talked to parents my age who I tell them there's absolutely no excuse to using a belt on your child, and they say, well, sometimes that's the only way to make them listen.
Right. And so,
it's still rampant.
Okay, but even that answer, sometimes that's the only way to make them listen, implies that if they say it's the only way, that implies that there are other ways to get through to a child. So it's not that they don't know better. They acknowledge that there are other ways. There are other ways. They are choosing to treat you this way. Choosing, and I'm not just talking about the belt. I'm talking about the put downs, not feeling good enough, having a child live in fear. They're choosing that. They chose that. It's not that they didn't know better. They did know that there were other options. You just said your brother was treated differently. So clearly somebody knew better. The point is, they're not innocent, but what they've conditioned you to do is hate on yourself rather than hate them. And so the price is very high. So who do you live with now?
My grandpa.
And do you still live in fear, or do you live in fear, or no?
Depends on what you mean. And standing up for myself, no, not really. But
But what?
But like, if I ever want to go out and like do my own thing, listen to my own voice, as you say, there's still the issue of that, of the criticism, what people will say.
What's it going to take? What's it going to take for you to get out from under your grandpa's roof?
Honestly, he's not that bad anymore, so I don't mind being here.
Okay, then what needs to happen in this, Amirah? What really needs to happen is and I'm going to tell it to you in the plainest language I possibly can. And at some point, you're going to have to begin to explore this and talk to other adults and so forth. But I'm just going to tell it to you plainly. There was never anything wrong with you. You were a fucking kid, and you being a black sheep or you acting out, I fucking acted out as a kid. But it's a response. A child is a response to the stimuli, to all the stimulus, this stimulus, that stimulus around him or her or they. The child is responding. The child just wants fucking love. And you acting out or you being bad or you doing this bad thing or that thing and being condemned for it is bullshit. That's just adults who would rather blame a child than own their own shit. There was never anything wrong with you. Every kids, to use your words, kids do kid stuff. And I think part of the reason that you can't forgive your past self is because that would mean asking yourself, well, where the hell did it come from? If I wasn't at fault, then who really was at fault? And you acknowledging that other people taught a child to hate herself means acknowledging that they were in fact at fault, which goes against the entire family myth system. Just out of curiosity, how come you don't live with your mom?
Just don't want to, I guess.
And what's the biggest reason you don't want to? If she's such a great mom, how come you don't want to?
Whenever the whole job stress came up, I kind of isolated myself, and I haven't really talked to her in about a year.
Wow. So there's a whole lot of shit going on there between you and mom.
Yeah. The biggest hindrance to that is that I know if I try to go back, I'll just hear I kind of tried to take to myself at first and for a few months. And then the one thing I heard was, yeah, I get that life gets hard, but you have to remember that other people exist too. So.
Wait, she said that?
Yeah.
So it's basically get over your fucking problems. You're impacting us. Fuck you, little child, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
and if I make another contact, I know it'll probably be a lecture.
Yeah, I'm going to be really honest with you. Let me ask one final question, too. Did your mom undergo some massive transformation of character in her life, or has she pretty much always been the same person?
I don't know. Like, you mean since I was born, or?
Yeah, since you were born. Since you were a kid. Did she have some life-changing incident since you were a kid?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so she's always been this person. This pressuring and so on and so forth, and okay.
My aunt too.
And your aunt too. You are under so much pressure from every fucking direction. No wonder you have anxiety. No wonder. And you even said earlier.
Every time I tried to talk to my dad, it was always like, what's your grades like? And I was like, well, I don't want to talk about my grades. They stress me out. It's like, well, school's important.
Well, and the underlying message is that your value is based on your performance, not who you are. And that you have to perform. And if you're not performing, you have less worth. Kid, until you begin to realize that you have worth just because of who you are. Just you. There's nothing wrong with you, and there never was. And you have to begin to see that. But that requires getting all the bullshit messages that these fuckers put into you of saying, oh, you're shit, you're no good, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And the other thing that you have to get those messages out. And that's what the podcast, that's what the book is about. You have to do that. Journaling. And if you need to burn your journals,
I've been journaling in little spurts.
Good girl.
To try to start.
Good girl. And you need to do more of that. And writing letters to the people that you have the strongest feelings towards. If you need to burn
I tried that one time, and it was before I knew you weren't supposed to send them, so I kind of censored it.
That's why and that's okay, but go back and write them, and don't send them. You need to flush it or burn it or whatever to keep yourself safe. do that. That's fine. But the other thing you need to be doing is precisely what you've been doing for the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and that is allowing those feelings out. You said, I usually don't feel my feelings, and you need to do that because you got so much feeling in there. And the more you flush that out through your journaling, through allowing the tears and allowing the anger, right? At least in your private time, by flushing, you know what's going to happen? All that anxiety you have, it's going to go, you're going to calm down. You're going to begin to love yourself more because you're getting all that crap and all the bullshit messages out of you. But you have to start flushing that stuff out. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Amirah,
my biggest hang up, though, is that, like, sure, I can tell myself I was just a child all I want, but a lot of kids, they turn into actual, like, good kids. Well, I was just kind of a snot.
And why? And so why do you think good kids turn into good kids?
Some of them do it to protect themselves. Some of them do it because they don't want to inflict pain onto others.
Right. So they go through the same stuff, and so they become a good kid to what? To protect themselves, right? But they still have the pain inside of them.
Yeah, but they don't, like, project it outward onto other people or...
Not yet. Not yet. If you got that pain inside you, I told you we just taped another show and we had some guys on the show and, you know, they were swallowing their pain their whole life. And one of them went on to hurt somebody he really loved and he lost somebody he really loved. Oh yeah, you hurt people. You store that shit up long enough, you'll find yourself hurting people. But you're so quick to judge yourself and beat yourself up. Kid, you are just trying to survive. And it's time to start flushing all that out. And you need to trust me when I tell you, you did the best you could. And it's time for you to start forgiving yourself. But the only way that's going to happen is start getting all that fucking pain out of there. Amirah, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And also, one more thing. You need to... You are a snot to protect yourself. You are creating walls. A whole lot of women in this world, men too, but a whole lot of women will put on the tough shield, put on the armor to protect themselves because they are soft inside. You're not the only one.
I wouldn't say I was tough. I say I developed that tougher shield as I got older.
Right. But
I was actually outside people, like people outside of my family looked at me and said, oh, what a good kid. But looking back, I acted out a lot. I've had people tell me how I acted out a lot.
Yeah, kids act out when their needs aren't being met. When they're wanting love and wanting positive attention, they act out to try to get it. But the adults weren't listening, and they let you down. And they hurt you. Amirah, I want to thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. And we've got another guest coming up right after this message.
Okay, well, you've heard the podcast. You've listened to other people's issues. Maybe you've studied hundreds of Sven's TikTok videos. Time to stop lurking, face your fears, and focus directly on the one person in your life who can benefit the most from Sven's experience and insight. Now, that would be you. Just go to badasscounseling.com and order Sven's book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. Or check out his many video courses. Sven found a way to help himself out of a 12 years depression. It worked for him, and it can work for you too. Check out badasscounseling.com today.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
Yes, we are back, and we have another guest joining the show. Rob, would you please tell us about Cory?
Yes, indeed, Sven. Cory wrote in and said, I am struggling with letting go and moving past my family. They've always been the most important thing in my life, but I've recently learned that I've spent my life begging for their approval, acceptance, and love. It wasn't until I hit rock bottom and firmly believed the world would be better off without me that I realized how completely unimportant I was to my family. I was to be there to help them, and when I was to be quiet and take however they treated me. When I needed them to be there for me, I was abandoned and abused by each member of my family. They are unable to take any responsibility for their actions, and after 5 years of trying to move on, they have continued to try and draw me back in so they can hurt me over and over. My son is the worst of the offenders and has brought me back in his life because of a grandchild, to only take the grandchild away after a year. I understand he has pain from his childhood, but I am done being punished for not being perfect. I am done beating myself up for being weak and needing support. I am done beating myself up for the poor behavior I have exhibited when I was so badly hurt by the people that were supposed to love me. I need help to stop defending myself and accepting their reality, letting go, and truly, finally, moving on.
Cory, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is completely ours. That's a very powerful story you tell there. I want to start sort of at the first thing that really jumped out at me about the story. You talk about I've spent my life begging for their approval. It wasn't until I hit rock bottom and believed the world would be better off without me that I realized how completely unimportant I was to my family. What age were you when you hit rock bottom and believed the world would be better off without you?
48-ish.
48. Fair enough.
Yeah,
and how old are you today, Cory, if I may ask?
I'm 53.
53. All right. You and I are roughly the same age. And so you were 48 and that the world would be better off without me. Did you attempt suicide?
I did.
How?
Asphyxiation.
All right. And how did that go?
Well, my daughter showed up and stopped him.
And you're crying. Talk to me. What's going on inside of you right now? What are you feeling? Give me a feeling word. Let those tears come. What are you feeling right now?
Just that I wish she hadn't stopped it. That everybody would have been better off.
So is it safe to say that right now you wish you were dead?
No.
Okay. All right. Clear it up. Help me understand.
I've done a lot of growing. I picked myself up after that. I just think that my family would be better. Like, there's been a lot of pain, and there's still a lot of pain, and it goes both ways. They've hurt me, and in retaliation to being hurt so badly, I've hurt them. And so I'd been successful, there would have been a little bit of pain in my death, but then they all would have moved on, and I wouldn't keep hurting them. Okay.
You say my family, and I've hurt them and they've hurt me. And then you go on to talk about your son hurting you and you having hurt him and he's hurt you. When you talk about your family, who really are we talking about that has hurt you in the past? Yes, your son now or recently, but in the past, who are we really talking about?
So my mother, and my two sisters, and my partners that I've had.
Mom, two sisters, and have you been married before?
Yeah, I was married for 13 years.
Okay, and my partners in the past, but obviously the partners would have come long after mom and two sisters. Is it safe to say that the original sources of your pain were back in your childhood?
Yes.
Okay, mom and two sisters. Just out of curiosity, are you youngest, middle, or oldest?
I am the middle.
You're the middle kid. Okay. And, right. And then, so the ones that have hurt you are mom and two sisters, as well as your partners. And then the people you say, and I've hurt my family, who mostly have you hurt? Who are we talking about here?
Well, probably all of them. So my mom, my sisters, and my kids.
Mom, sisters, and kids. And how many kids do you have?
2.
You obviously have a son. Do you have
a boy and a girl?
Boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl.
And ages of your kids?
My son's 35 and my daughter is 22.
35 and 22. All right, good. That helps. You had your son at 18.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. You were young. Okay. Suicide is a big thing. And you tried to asphyxiate yourself. My daughter showed up and stopped it, and you started crying because you wish she hadn't. And I said, well, that must mean you you wish you were dead now, or the last 5 years you wish you hadn't had to live through since it happened.
Yeah.
So what really is it? Why do you wish she hadn't showed up and stopped it?
Well, because I guess this is a very long, convoluted thing, but basically I'm a fighter. And so when she stopped it, I promised her I would never try again. And she was very young at the time. And I guess before I tried, I didn't realize how it would affect her if I didn't succeed. And it affected her terribly. And it breaks my heart that I hurt her so and put her in that position.
Whereas if she hadn't shown up, you would not have to feel how much you broke her heart.
Broke her heart, yeah.
Right.
And she might not, like, it would be over for her, right? So she'd miss me maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. She'd miss me maybe, but she wouldn't be living with the fear that I might try again.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you, you said she might miss me maybe. Okay. Yeah. What makes you say that? What makes you say, why do you think she would miss you maybe versus she would absolutely miss you, or she wouldn't miss you at all? What makes you say she'd miss me maybe?
Well, because since that point in time, my family has pretty much just not had much to do with me.
Wait, stop. Wait.
Okay.
We're looking at 5 years ago, I believe you said, you attempted suicide. So when we're talking about if you had succeeded, then, so everything that happened since then doesn't matter if you had died. And so I'm asking you, and you said, well, after it happened, she might miss me maybe.
Oh, no, if I died, she would have missed me. Yes, she would have been very sad.
Right.
At that point.
Yeah, because she would have been 5 years ago, she would have been 17 years old, and her mother is gone, and her mother committed suicide. Oh, it would have fucking destroyed her. Not to say she wouldn't live and grieve and hopefully move through it and have life, but she would miss you every single day for the rest of her life.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess, but at the time I didn't think so.
Of course. Your own pain was so great, you couldn't see past the end of your nose, right? Right. Okay. And so let me ask you then, you say, you're talking about this massive amount of pain. You spent your life begging for their approval, acceptance, and love. Whose approval, acceptance, and love in life, whose do you think you've wanted most? Who's at the top of the food chain?
Probably my mom and my dad. And I didn't mention my dad before because he passed away many years ago. So he's been out of the picture for a long time. But as a child, my dad and my mom, probably.
Wanting approval. Just out of curiosity, how old was Dad how old were you when Dad died?
Probably between 22 and 24.
Okay. 22 to 24, somewhere in there. All right, fair enough. And so if you were wanting their approval, acceptance, and love, that implies they didn't give it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What did they give you instead of approval, acceptance, and love?
Probably responsibility.
Okay.
So,
and after you fulfilled a given responsibility, were you given approval? After you did the right thing, after you met because there was pressure to do your responsibilities, and then you did them, then what? More responsibilities?
Nothing, yeah. So, then I would just, until the next time they needed me, I was just kind of left on my own.
Okay, so left on my own. What's the earliest you recall being left on your own and having responsibilities?
So probably the time frame's a little blurry. So I'm thinking around 11, 12. My parents had marital problems, and I was kind of saddled with taking care of my younger sister. And
okay,
and my mom, right? So I kind of became responsible for helping mom so that she could get things done and feel better, and making sure my little sister didn't know what was going on. And
So you, by 11 or 12, you feel saddled with taking care of your sister and taking care of mom. How would you be taking care of mom? I mean, was she an invalid? Did you have to wipe her butt? Did you have to make her meals, or just attend to her feelings and emotions? What are we talking about?
Just attend to her feelings and emotions. She was upset with my dad was having an affair or an alleged affair.
And so what would
right?
you do to take care of her emotions? What are we talking about? What sorts of things would you have to do or say? Or just listen, or what are we talking about?
Just listen, right? So she'd come home, and when we finally had supper and Dad hadn't come home, she would pour herself a drink and she would, cry. And I understand that, right? Like I get being so grief-stricken
But
by that infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
But, and my older sister and I would be there for her, but then I was sent away to take care of my younger sister who wanted to be with Mom, right? And so I was to distract my younger sister and keep my younger sister away.
I see. And so
then I would,
Oh, go ahead, please.
Well, then I would receive the backlash of my younger sister not wanting me around because
she wanted to be with Mom. You were basically blocking her from being with Mom.
Yeah.
Right. And okay. And so is it safe to say then, I mean, it sounds pretty clear, but in your home, Mom's feelings were king, and it was all about sort of Mom's feelings and do what I tell you to do. But you say your family hurt you. How did your mom most hurt you in your childhood? I mean, granted, you being responsible for her feelings, there are significant negative messages that get sent to the child about that. But, or are you referring to something else? How did your mom hurt you?
Mom would dismiss my feelings. So I became the person who was supposed to. So, and this is just my perception of it from counseling and reading and exploring what's going on. I always thought I had a great childhood up until my later years. But Mom would dismiss my feelings. I was supposed to put my feelings aside and accommodate everybody else's.
Well, and at top of the list is her, because she's having all this stuff. She's boozing and pouring out all her shit. Shut up, child. Your kids, your feelings don't matter. Mine matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't believe she did it on purpose, right? She went through this tough time, and I guess she had nobody but us to rely on, right? And we're on a farm. We're in a farm. We're in the middle of nowhere.
And she had no family. She had no family or friends.
No close family, right? And I don't think my mom was the type of person to lean on anybody else.
Well, that doesn't even make sense. She leaned on you and your sister.
Yeah.
So what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think she had any close connections, right? Like she had acquaintances, so she taught. She was a teacher in the community, and she knew everybody, but I don't think she really had any close friends.
Just out of curiosity, why do you think that is?
She was too busy working, surviving. Right? She worked a full-time job and in a farming community back in the 70s. Everybody else was stay-at-home moms, right? She worked a full-time job. My dad ran a business. They ran the farm. They just worked all the time. Right. And so what do you think it is above all else that caused you at age 48 to want to kill yourself? What is it from way back there? What was the fundamental message that you got about yourself that persisted for 48 more years, for 40 more years, till eventually you want to fucking kill yourself? I mean, you wanting to kill yourself, that didn't happen in your fucking 40s. The dog wagging that tail is 40 years prior. What was the fundamental message you got about yourself? I was told I wasn't worth anything unless I was doing something for somebody.
Wasn't worth anything unless you were doing something for somebody. And so what's the message? What does that child begin to believe then about themselves?
That they're worthless.
That they're worthless.
That they're unlovable.
That they're unlovable just for who you are. You have to earn it. And even when you would meet those responsibilities, though, it's not like there was a Scooby snack waiting for you. There was no fucking, you said, there was no reward if I met my responsibilities. Just, okay, run along and until we need you again.
No. Yeah. And that's pretty much every relationship I've had in my life has had the same message.
Just out of curiosity, what percentage of your parents' parenting technique did you take into the raising of your own children?
Oh, probably quite a bit, because my mom, I was young with my son, And so my mom told me how to do things quite a bit.
And
how I should do things.
And how you should do things. And were you met with good girl, good job? Or were you met with you're a screw up, or were you met with nothing? I mean,
no, it was usually critical of what I wanted to do if I wanted to do something. So, and I don't know if it was right or wrong, but, there was a stage in my parenting with my son where other parents did their kids' projects, right? And so these kids would come with these stellar projects, and my son had, a little bit of low self-esteem. So I thought I should help him with his project. And I was told, no, let him do it himself. Right. And I agree with that philosophy to a bit until he shows up with a project that he did himself against projects that were done by other adults. Right. And he feels crappy about himself because his project is nowhere near the quality that was done where dad come in and built a, 4-story high rise for a kid or something. Right.
It's not fair. Right? I got to compete against the adults. So let me ask you. Go ahead, Cory, please.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So it was just always kind of a criticism, like, don't expect anything from your kids. Don't push them. Don't, I was a high achiever, I guess, because of my childhood, and I wanted my kids to achieve a little bit more.
Wait a minute. Just so I'm clear, you were taught, your mom told you don't expect anything, your kids, and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
But didn't she raise you precisely the opposite?
Yes.
Then help me understand why the shift. Why did your mom change her parenting technique from how she parented you to how she expected you to parent your son?
I think probably she employed her teaching skills. So my mom was an amazing teacher. Like, there are kids that still come back and say,
why did she change? Why did she change? She was a teacher when she had you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did she change her parenting technique from how she raised you to how she expected you to raise your son?
Yeah, I can't answer that.
If you were to speculate, you know her as well as anyone. If you were to speculate, why did she change?
I guess because she cared more about my son than she did me. I don't know.
Well, okay, that's a good start. But it also implies, doesn't it imply that she realized how she raised you was wrong or shitty or bad?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Not even possibly. Yeah. For what other reason would she change her parenting technique and to be better by her estimation, your estimation, or now your estimation? I don't know, but by her estimation, why would she change unless she's admitting that how I raised you was not good, was not okay?
It could have been, but she didn't raise my sisters to those high expectations. So she has no expectations of my sisters.
So she raised you differently from how she raised your sisters.
Yes.
Okay. And what do you believe the reason is for that?
I don't know.
Do you believe?
Because I was different than them. I was strong-willed.
And why do you think you were different from them? Is it did you come out of the womb strong-willed and maybe sassy or salty or whatever? Do you think you came out of the womb that way?
I think so, yeah.
And that's based on what?
Because my daughter came out the same way. She was sassy and
why would
vocal
and why do you think children are sassy and vocal? What need are they trying to get met?
Well, attention and love. Yeah.
Oh, so it's a reaction. I'm not getting enough attention. I'm not getting enough love. But I find that when I'm sassy and vocal, I can get some attention and love.
Yeah. See, so I'd be a little confused in that because my daughter was very much loved. I stayed at home with her.
Does she say that today?
Mom.
Does she say that today, that she was very much loved growing up?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, and her dad doted on her.
Okay.
And her big brother was 13 years older, and he doted on her. She's just this. My daughter's this. Like, everybody has different personalities, right? She's very outgoing and.
Did you dote on your daughter? Did you dote on your daughter? Because you said her father did and her brother did, but you didn't say yourself.
Well, I did. I also taught a little independence, but no, I did. It was the first time, having been a parent at 18 and having to go to school and work. Mm-hmm. I missed out on a lot of my son. My son was in daycare and I missed out on a lot. Right. So I stayed at home with my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I really, I sit down and played with them, and we splashed in puddles, and we sang songs, and we read books, and we cuddled, and
Okay. Just out of curiosity, do you believe that your parents raised you the way they did? Your mom raised you the way she did? Because, all this crappy ways, that all these things that she did to you, do you believe she did that because she didn't know any better? Or how do you explain it? Her treating you this way?
I believe that she raised me the way her parents raised her.
Okay.
And changed it a little bit.
But wait a minute. You just told me that she raised your two sisters differently from how she raised you.
Yeah.
So she made a conscious choice. She did know better. She actually did know better. And you had an older sister that got treated differently, and you had a younger sister that got treated differently. So she just plucked it out. She changed her parenting tools, techniques, just for this one child. So she did know better. And if she raised you the way she was raised, but she didn't raise your sisters the way she was raised, she made a choice.
She did, yeah.
And what do you make of the fact that she made a choice to raise you that way? Do you really believe that that child was so bad? The child that was you was so bad that you deserved to be treated the way you were treated?
No, I believe I was so different from her that she didn't know how to treat me.
Didn't know how? The fuck does that mean? Yeah, she obviously knew other ways of raising children, because she raised two children that way, and then she pushed you to raise your son differently. So obviously she knew how to raise children differently.
I guess, I don't know. I don't know why she treats me the way she treats me.
To this day. Okay, you just said that in present tense. Present tense.
She still treats me that way.
And just out of curiosity, do you hate yourself? I mean, come on, you were going to kill yourself. So do you hate yourself?
No.
Oh, have you ever hated yourself?
No. I think I should hate myself.
No, you shouldn't do anything. I'm just curious if you do.
I think the world tells me I'm this horrible person.
And when you say the world,
I myself and I go.
Now, when you say the world, who are we really talking about? Who are
my family.
And who's at the top of the list telling you should hate yourself?
My sister, my brother, my mother. Yeah.
My sister, my brother, you said?
My mother. Your
sister and your mother.
My sister and my mother.
So your mother basically tells you should hate yourself in so many words.
Well, she implies that I'm wrong. Everything about me is wrong. Right? So.
Okay. Let me ask you.
If I walk into a room, if I voice an opinion, I should be shushed. I should keep that opinion to myself. Don't rock the boat. Keep the peace. Don't say anything, right? She'll say, somebody will do something wrong to me, and she'll say, no, they didn't do that. That isn't. What did you do? So when my husband cheated on me, I got, what did you do to make him cheat?
Oh, God. Your mom can go, your mom can go fuck herself. Your mom's a fucking idiot. Your mom's a fucking idiot. I have no patience for that shit. So no matter what, you're wrong. No matter what, you're at fault. No matter what. And so then you go on to say, I've basically, they're unable to take responsibility. It's not they're unable. They don't want to. It's not ability. You're letting them off the hook like they just lack the ability. No, they don't want to. They want you to take fucking responsibility. And after 5 years of trying to move on, they've continued to draw me back in so they can hurt me and over. Setting your son aside, he's the worst of the offenders. And perhaps he's been conditioned by that larger family. We all hate on Cory. And so and think about that. If it is the conditioning of the larger family, there's pressure. Anybody who doesn't conform to the family story that Cory's the fucking idiot, they're going to meet our wrath. So in a way, he's protecting himself by turning on his mother, which sucks, especially at his age. you know?
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that could be his self-protection mechanism. But you say, and I'm not excusing it. I'm not excusing. I'm just trying to understand in my own head. And then you say, I'm done being punished for not being perfect. I'm done beating myself up for being weak and needing support. I'm done beating myself up for the poor behavior I exhibited when I was so badly hurt by the people who were supposed to love me. I need to stop defending myself and accepting their reality, letting go. Let me ask you this. So why not cut these people out of your life?
I want to, and I can't.
Why?
I don't know how.
Help me understand. What does that mean? I don't know how.
I do. So there's been long periods of time where I have nothing to do with them. And then, like I said, so I haven't talked to any of them for about a year. And I moved to Mexico and I started a new life. And then my son contacted me and said, I'm having a baby. I really want you in my life. Come back. And so I said, okay, I'll come back because you asked. And since then, it's just been little, right? So I'll be back there. And they just treat me like I'm not important. And part of me says, oh, well, maybe it's just me feeling that way, or I'm too sensitive. And they play on that, of course, right?
Of course. Of course.
And they play on that and they make me feel bad about it. So then I try harder.
Do you need to leave again?
Harder.
Do you need to leave again?
Yeah.
You do.
Well, they leave me. So
right.
I went back I went.
But I'm saying to
last
protect
time I
yourself.
saw my son. Yeah.
Do you need to get away? Have you gotten away yet? Do you need to get away?
I have. I go back to Mexico, get away, and then I'm fine. And then one of them will reach out and say, I want to rebuild our relationship. And the cycle starts again.
And just,
right?
okay. And just out of curiosity, does the cycle starting again mean you have to move back up north if you're down in Mexico? I mean, at what point if we're really going to rebuild a relationship, at what point can we just do it from a distance? Or at what point do you stop trying to rebuild, or giving in to their wants? When do you finally give yourself permission? Or is it that I'm still so longing for their approval that I'm going to try every time they come?
I'm still so longing for their approval that if they say jump, I jump.
Right. And the bottom line is,
I try not to.
Right. I understand. It's hard. The bottom line is you have a 53-year pattern of behavior that you've witnessed in your family members, that they're just going to hurt you, and that they're not there for you, and that you're not going to get that relationship. And so in a way, your walking away from it is you standing up for yourself like you did.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
But at some point, that is an act of love towards yourself that no one else has given you. That is you protecting you when no one else did, when they were damn well supposed to. And so a part of what it is the realization I'm never going to get the love. And in a way, I've never had a family to begin with.
Yeah. And that's the part I have such a hard time letting go of.
Of course.
If I was in my 20s and realized this, I probably could have walked away.
Yeah.
I would have been strong enough. But at 53, how do I be completely alone? How do I let everybody that I focused on my whole life, right, just go? I can put aside everything.
What's your biggest fear? What's your biggest fear of walking away from your entire family? What's your biggest fear?
Being alone. That they're right, that nobody wants, that I'm not worth having around.
Oh. I can totally understand why you would feel that. And our fears kick in, and all a lifetime of the bullshit messages you've had slung at you kick in. But it's not true. You won't be alone. It'll feel that way in the beginning because you got all those feelings. And the more you get those feelings out of you, and the more you get those feelings out of you, remember, I was in a suicidal depression for 12 years. So I've been where you are. Different circumstances, but I've been there. And I'm telling you, you won't be alone. The more you get that out, the more you're going to discover that there are actually people that see you for the real you. Not the bullshit lies you've been taught about yourself, but the real you that's actually good and a beautiful woman and smart, creative, funny, and kind, just like you were way back in the beginning. And that you have that sassiness, and they love that too. There are going to be people who think you're wonderful. You're going to have friendships like you never knew were even possible. Friends that become closer than family. You're going to have, if you lean towards men, you're going to have men who think you're incredible. You're going to have to literally choose between great men. Not cheap ones or shitty ones, but great ones. And you're going to have, because you're going to begin to have more higher standards for yourself and in anyone you let in your life. But I'm telling you, you're not going to be alone. It's going to feel that way. And that's what you have to sit in. You have to allow all those feelings up. Just like I was saying earlier in the show with Amirah, you have to welcome those feelings. And you have to begin to flush them out more and more. But you also have to begin to be journaling and putting into words what was done to you, how it felt. That 7-year-old you, that 12-year-old you, she has all those boxes of all her feelings that she wasn't allowed to feel, that she locked down and she kept stuffing. That was your authentic self. That was your real you, your real responses. And that 9-year-old, that 13-year-old you is bringing all those boxes saying, please open these. We weren't strong enough. And you're like, I don't know if I'm strong enough. And they're like, please. And the more you open those up, you begin to get reacquainted with who you really are, what your real feelings were then, what your real feelings are now. And you begin to see, I was good. I am good. But you've been taught a whole slew of lies that were never true to begin with. I'm sorry. I come from a belief system that doesn't believe any child comes out of the womb bad or hating themselves. That view of themselves is conditioned by the bullshit around them.
No, and I agree that too.
Fair. So you are conditioned to believe that who you are is no good, and the only way you are deserving of love is if you do something to earn it. Do you believe that people are good, can be good just by who they are and be loved just for who they are, even if they don't do anything to earn it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I think that you should be.
Precisely.
Right? Like I don't.
Precisely.
But,
and you should have been when you were that age. And your mom actually did know how to raise children differently, and she chose not to. And she can go fuck herself as far as I'm concerned. She can go fuck herself. But that's just me. But it sounds like you basically want to say that too, because you want to get away and start your life. I have to say, Cory, I admire you. I really do. At 53, to be willing to change, to want to change, to turn away from your family. In a way, it's easier, in your 20s because, gee, you're stronger and everything. But in a way, it's easier in your 20s because it's not as bad. When you're 20, when you're 25 and you got a lifetime of pain already, that's bad. But carry that load for another 25 years and have it get worse and worse and worse. And the fact that you're still standing, lady, that's pretty goddamn impressive. And I think you have an amazing life ahead of you. I mean that. I don't think it. I know it. If you do the work of flushing all this out, I guarantee it. I know it for a fact. I have been where you are. I have been where you are.
How do you get there? Because I feel like I'm stuck.
And what above all else are you
in limbo?
Put it in one sentence. What above all else are you stuck on?
Wanting their approval.
Right.
And being scared of and fear of being alone, right?
Right. So, wanting their approval. And the bottom line is, I think what you're really not wanting to accept is you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
You are never going to get it. I was with a woman, and she was a star in entertainment, and she was at the very top of her game. She was 42 at the top of her game. And she was literally in the entertainment industry, and we had just come from a show, and her mother was at the show, and we all had dinner together, the three of us, and her mother criticized her entire performance. And, she sat and listened, and then we took her mother home, dropped her off, and we got back to the hotel room. And I said, did you see what just happened? She says, oh, I saw what just happened. I said, you are literally at the top of your career. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of little boys and little girls of teenage, college age, whatever age, who would kill to be where you are. You are at the top of your profession. And even now, you don't get your mother's approval. She says, I know. And she said, Sven, you want to know what just hit me? I said, what's that? She said, I'm never going to get it. I'm never going to get my mother's approval. And she said, and then she sat with it. Silence, just the clinking in our glasses of our drink. And then she said this. This is simultaneously the saddest day and the most liberating day of my life. I said, why is that? She says, because I realized the very thing, it's saddest because the very thing I have spent my entire life trying to get, I'm never going to get. And that's sad. I said, why is it most liberating? She says, because I realized the single thing that I've spent my entire life trying to get, bending and contorting and striving, I'm never going to get. It's liberating because now I'm free of trying to strive to try to win my mother's love or at least avoid her criticism. My life is finally mine. You have spent your entire life, Cory, giving away all your power, trying to get them to like you. And the day you realize you're never going to get it is the day your life finally becomes your own. It's finally like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to live my life my way. I'm never going to get that, so I can quit trying. And yes, in the beginning, it's going to feel like you're alone, but you're going to discover how quickly life jumps in to say, all right, now we can have some fun. Now life can be good. But yeah, you have to grieve the death of your family. That's what it really is. Cory, I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show. But before you leave, I just want to ask, Rob or Casey, any questions or want to say?
I just know, Sven, that when the people you're counseling shed so many tears, we know that they're either doing all the hard work now or they are about to, and it's a good sign.
Brilliant point. Casey, any thoughts?
For Cory, I don't think you said the world thinks you're a horrible person, and I want you to know that I don't think you're a horrible person. I think you're a person with a whole lot of pain that's been packed on you from a really horrible family. And I love you, and I think you're a wonderful, wonderful woman. And regarding the guilt that you feel over, attempting suicide and your daughter and everything like that, I totally empathize with that. And I see the guilt that you must feel over that. But I don't think your daughter would have been better off and just gotten over it if you had committed suicide. I think she'd become much more likely to commit suicide herself, because that's what the statistics tell us. And I think she would feel hopeless. And I think that if you can move on from your family, and I think you will, and live a happy life, Jesus, what are you giving your daughter then? You're showing her that you clawed back from the very bottom, just like Sven did, and you went on to take those shackles off and live a happy life. And I think that's what you're going to do. And I think that's the best gift you could give your daughter.
Amen.
And I think you have to let go of the guilt of what's past, because it's past. And you are a victim as well. So give yourself some
think
love.
of myself as a victim.
No, you definitely are a victim of your mother.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no definition of victim that you don't fit under. And no, that's well said. And until you begin to realize that, you're going to think that you're like the oppressor or the bad person, but you're a victim of some really shitty treatment right up until today, up until the present. But Cory, thank you so much for being on the show. And Rob, thank you for your hard work. Casey, always great to have you in studio. And to all of you listening today, thank you for listening in and sending all your love to these fine, fine women. On behalf of my entire team here on the Badass Counseling Show, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.